are live, and you are live tonight on Coffee with Kim, and you are here with me in Jerusalem, and you are going to get to hear and enjoy all of the Jerusalem night sounds as you look off to the west into the Judean hills, into the lights of the ancient and magnificent city of Jerusalem. I am so excited you're here with me tonight. This is a big night. This is a big night for Coffee with Kim. It's a big night with a big announcement. It's a big night for you. This is going to be a really cool Coffee with Kim. All right. So first thing I want to start off with is an excerpt from Ronald Reagan's speech in 1980. So we're talking 40 years. This week we are in the first portion of the book of Deuteronomy, or the book of Devarim. These are the words of Moshe. Now, he is preparing the children who survived the 40 years in the wilderness. He is now giving them the final instructions of what it's going to take to possess the land, what it was going to take to actually enter into the purpose and destiny of the nation. And so tonight, when I take a look back at what Ronald Reagan was seeing 40 years ago, I think it's so important to revisit that, because the opportunity to take that vision that he had and to move it forward has never been greater. And so let me give you, actually there's two different parts of this, and let me just share with you two segments that he said. One was, we're Americans, and we have a rendezvous with destiny. No people who have ever lived on this earth, welcome to Jerusalem, no people who have ever lived on this earth have fought harder, paid a higher price for freedom, or done more to advance the dignity of man than Americans. And I think if we look at that holistically, that thought, it's true. It's true. America, from the time of its inception, by men and women escaping the tyranny of Europe, the tyranny kingdoms, how about if we put it that way? All right, so escaping all those kings, escaping the Catholic Church, I think too. Oh my! But it says here, there was a price to pay, a tremendous price to pay for the foundation and the building of the nation of America, where immigrants from every nation under the sun, including the Jewish community, who had to escape literally almost 2,000 years of persecution to be able to come and find a haven, a place that was created by the hand of God, an incubator for the nations, for the Jews, a place where people could understand and learn the concept of freedom, and then take it to the nations. There is no other nation in the history of humankind that has given more money and helped more countries and nations thrive and find a way to become a better nation, a way to be able to find doors and avenues that would bring concepts and ideas that would free people from slavery, from occupation, from dictatorships, from ideologies. America wasn't just born to become a prosperous nation. America was born to foment a set of ideas and ideals that would make men and women and children free. Now that ideal is under serious assault as we gather on coffee for Kim tonight. That freedom is diminishing day by day. And the time to fight is when the enemy is closing in. We can use deterrence when the enemy is surrounding and keep them at bay. But when the enemy starts to get on your territory, then deterrence is no longer the tactic. It's time to fight. And the next quote that I want to give from Ronald Reagan is also taken from the same speech. He says, "You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness. If we fail, at least let our children and our children's children say of us, we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done." You know, it's interesting that the Torah portion this week talks about, Moses talks about who's going to go into the promised land, and the generations that didn't believe, they didn't go. They spent the 40 years in the wilderness without hope of ever seeing the promise. But the children, what was interesting that Moshe says, he says, but the children that grew up in the wilderness, they don't know their right hand from their left. They don't know the difference between good and evil. And yet, this was the generation that God was choosing to inherit the promise. And I think that's why Moses was so passionate in his last days to transmit to the children the moral integrity of the covenant that was made between them and God. And I think when I'm speaking to you tonight, that same passion is so deep in my soul that if there was ever a time to speak and to transmit the things that we know to be true, it's now.